we have an article in the Fremantle Herald, May the 11th, 2013. Not a priority. Alleged brothel near Beaconsfield Primary School. An alleged brothel believed to have been operating for at least 6 months just metres from a primary school in Beaconsfield is not considered a policing priority, says WA Police Minister Lieshout. The fact that she's saying it as a woman is disgraceful as well. Despite residents providing police details such as car registrations and other comings and goings at the Warren Street house, Miss Harvey says police are only interested if there is evidence of the involvement of drugs, organised crime, juveniles or sexual servitude. Well, that's what brothels are. Organised crime, sexual servitude, and there's always drugs involved and young people. It's horrific. Brothels. So she's just, you know, unbelievable. Local Upper House Liberal MP Nick Goran told the minister earlier this year residents had reported some children have been approached by the man who runs the brothel or by men visiting the premises. They should be jailed. There are legal provisions to jail a manager of a brothel and also the owner of the property of a brothel. They can be jailed for 2 years. A friend from the next street saw a man masturbating in his car parked outside Christ the King's School, one local mum said. Residents are fuming about the lack of interest from police and Fremantle City Council. We have hundreds of regos. We even have a Crime Stoppers case number, the resident who asked not to be named says. Men park in driveways or by the side of the road while they wait to go in. My husband works at night. It is distressing when you have children of your own. Police refer complaints to Fremantle Council, which in turn sends them back to the police. The city does not have a policy on brothels, as they are illegal under separate legislation. Council Bugle Jason Cunningham says, any illegal activity is a police matter. Mr Goran wrote to Ms Harvey saying current laws provide sufficient basis for the police to investigate and prosecute. Nick Goran's not innocent in this, I'll tell you why in a minute. Residents had provided details, including the arrival of each morning of several women of Asian descent by taxi, accompanied either by an older woman or a rough-looking man who pays the taxi fare. Our government has promised to deal with prostitution in residential areas. We should be making an effort to relocate this industry in commercial and industrial areas. Well, they broke every promise that they make as they're corrupt to the core. Miss Harvey replied January 29th saying police had not acted as they have only received several anonymous Crime Stoppers reports in relation to this address. That's a pathetic response. Police will conduct targeted patrols of the Beaconsfield address, she promised. WA Police's position is that brothel-based prostitution is not considered a policing priority unless there is evidence of the involvement of drugs, organised crime, juveniles or sexual servitude. My assessment, this is Lisa Harvey, my assessment is it is unlikely that the situation will improve unless legislation is passed which resolves the practical and evidentiary issues concerning prostitution, provides a sufficient enforcement powers and clear legislative guidance to WA Police to ensure they can respond to public complaints and close down brothels in residential areas. That's Lisa Harvey. In the meantime, Mr Goran says the mother who made the initial complaint is becoming extremely distressed and concerned for the well-being of her own children and other children in the neighbourhood and at the school. Well, I'll tell you something interesting. Lisa Harvey is either ignorant of the legislation, she's either lying, or she's ignorant in general, or all three, or 2 out of 3. In 2010, it was about 2010, I was a delegate on the Women's Liberal Council with the Liberal Party, because I was with the Liberal Party for quite a few years, then I left because of all their corruption. I was a delegate on the Women's Liberal Council for about a year. And there were lots of meetings about the issue of prostitution and brothels. And I can tell you for certain that at the time the Attorney General Christian Porter is introducing legislation to license brothels and also have brothels in residential areas, supposedly not more than 100 metres from a residential area. So they have got no intention to do anything about this, and I can tell you absolutely for certain, you can check the legislation, that under section 190 to 192, I'll read the legislation out on YouTube one day, I just don't have it with me. Section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code, which is a 1913 law, and it has very strong legislation, section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code, very strong legislation about brothels. And under that legislation, they can close brothels, they can close them down outright, they can prosecute the owners of a brothel, they can prosecute the manager of a brothel, and they can prosecute the landowner of a property that is used for a brothel. And the penalties are 2 years imprisonment. So the manager of this brothel can get 2 years imprisonment under section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code. You can check the legislation. It is absolutely black and white. It is very strong legislation. And any man that solicits a prostitute under that legislation can be jailed for 1 year. So it is very good legislation already in place. These politicians are trying to introduce legislation to legalise brothels. She is a liar. She's either ignorant of the legislation, or she's a liar, or she's ignorant in general, and all three, 2 or 3, or it's total dishonesty. Because some of those meetings I went to, I stood up there in the meetings and I said we should prosecute under section 190 to 192. You can check the minutes, and if they deny it, they're lying. That I said we need to take this to the whole party room, that these brothels need to be closed, and I was fighting for them to be shut down by the politicians under sections 190 to 192. I referred to the legislation in my argument, and they said no. And I'm pretty sure Lisa Harvey was at that meeting. Nick Goran was also at the meeting, and Christian Porter was at the meeting. He was presenting the legislation to license brothels, to actually license them in Western Australia. So they're absolute liars. Absolute liars. And I can tell you for certain, the president of the Women's Liberal Council was chairing the meeting, Lorraine Finlay. And if they try and deny this, they are lying. She was chairing the meeting and I got up to speak. I even had written notes, and I said that they should be closed and they should be prosecuted under section 190 to 192, that brothels should be closed, the managers should be prosecuted, the owners of the property should be prosecuted. I read out the legislation in the meeting, and she was sitting there, and you know what she said to me? She says it won't work because the judges won't do it. The judges won't enforce it. The government is involved in organised crime. They're involved in brothels and prostitution. You know, they're allowing it to go on. They don't have any intention of stopping this. They don't have any intention. They're gutless, liars, dishonest. And I stood there and she looked me right in the eye in front of all the people there, and she said, they won't enforce the legislation. They won't enforce section 190 to 192. The judges of the courts won't enforce section 190, 192 to shut down the brothels. That's the problem. So the politicians are corrupt in regards to brothels and prostitution, and so are the judges, because they won't shut them down under section 190 to 192. Instead, they're trying to bring in new legislation to license brothels and get rid of that old legislation, which is actually really good. And they already have the laws there. She is a liar. And I challenge any one of those Liberal politicians or any other politician, Labor, I don't care, Greens, what party you're with, to be honest with the public and to say those brothels can be closed under section 190 to 192 under the Criminal Code. But you won't do it, and in fact you're trying to license him in Western Australia. For that reason alone you should be jailed. You all should be voted out and jailed. You know, this is right next to a primary school. And this police minister, she should be sacked. She is lying, she is dishonest, or she's ignorant of the legislation. And in the report, at one of those meetings, Christian Porter was presenting his report. I have a copy of the report. I have a copy of the legislation, section 190 to 192. I have a copy of Christian Porter's report proposing to license brothels before he left. He should never ever be voted for. None of these people should. I've got a copy of the report. In the beginning of his report, he states that there is legislation, section 190 of the Criminal Code, to deal with prostitution. However, he said it was inadequate. That's garbage. That's absolute garbage. Because those sections are very clear. I'll read them. They can be jailed. This man running this brothel in Beaconsfield on Warren Street House should be arrested, and he should be prosecuted under section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code, which is specifically about brothels and prostitution, and he should be jailed for 2 years. And every manager and every owner of a premises uses a brothel, or every managing a brothel should be arrested by the police, put before the court, district court or Supreme Court, magistrates court, and they should be jailed for 2 years under section 190 to 192. Get the state solicitor's office to do it. Get the state solicitor's office. They know what I'm talking about. They know I'm right. They damn well know I'm right. And if those judges don't jail them for running brothels in Western Australia, those judges should be jailed. Because this is right next to a primary school. And yous are hypocrites, liars, dishonest, and you should be jailed for lying to the public about brothels and prostitution and trying to introduce a law to license them. You are lying to the public, you are dishonest. Sections 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code, you can prosecute people for running a brothel, managing a brothel, owning the property used by a brothel, 2 years imprisonment. And a man who solicits a prostitute, a man who uses a prostitute, can be jailed for a year. If the judges won't jail them, the judges should be jailed. If the politicians won't use the state solicitor's office to put this man before the court, to have him jailed, then the politicians should be jailed. Lisa Harvey, you be jailed for your crap. And Christian Porter, you know damn well section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code. I'm going to read it out on this YouTube channel one day to prove that this brothel can be closed. The manager can be jailed for 2 years and it can be closed. And I can also assure you that Nick Goran was at that meeting that I was at, where Christian Porter presented his report and speech on proposing to license brothels when they've already got very strong legislation to shut them down. Nick Goran was there giving his bullshit 3 cents worth. He's supposed to be a Christian, he's a hypocrite. There are already laws. He's supposed to be a lawyer. Well, there are already laws there, Nick, aren't there? Section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code. Ask the state solicitor's office. You should be telling the media about section 190 to 192 of the Criminal Code and pushing for this manager of this brothel and the person who owns the property, who's using it, to be jailed for 2 years under those sections, under those provisions. Why aren't you doing that? Because you're a liar and you're a hypocrite as well. And you're supposed to be a lawyer. You're a joke. Well, I say the state solicitor's office should intervene. And the Attorney General won't do it. He's a Liberal Party Attorney General. He's corrupt as well. You know, using tax money, using his position in tax money to destroy my civil political rights in the Supreme Court by intervening. And the Corneloup brothers, millions of dollars being spent by Attorney Generals around the country, destroying the civil, political and religious rights of Australian citizens, and in particular Christians. You know, these are criminals, absolute criminals. And particularly in relation to brothels. Because they're always associated with organised crime. They're always associated with drugs. They're always associated with underage women being used. Brothels are disgusting, degrading to men, and they're degrading to women, and they're degrading to children. And what is it teaching the young people? You're teaching them, you're trying to license them, you're liars. You're teaching young people that's okay, it's a legitimate lifestyle to pursue, and it's not. Because it's all associated with organised crime and murder and death and the drugging of people and abortion, and it's horrific. The sexual enslavement of women. And it's the fault of men. And the fact is, a man's running the brothel. He should be jailed for 2 years. If the politicians don't jail this man, and the judges don't jail this man, and all the other people who are running brothels and profiting off them and owning the premises, well, you all should be jailed for it, you know. It's disgusting. You're putting families in danger, men in danger, good men in danger who don't engage in this sort of thing, women in danger, and children in danger. Right next to a primary school. I tell you what, on Warren Street, every citizen in the Fremantle Federal Electorate should go down to this building and destroy it. We should destroy this building ourselves. We should. Because if the government's going to do nothing about it, they are letting it happen. Well, we should just take it into our own hands and destroy the building, shouldn't we? Because what's next? You know? What's next? They're going to give people, you know, guns to walk around and kill people. Is that what they're going to do next? You know, they're permitting organised crime, allowing it to flourish and go on and on and on by doing nothing about it. You know, it's the fault of atheist politicians. That's what it's the fault. And hypocrites like Nick Goran. You think that you're trying to show the public you're doing the right thing. You're a hypocrite. Because you should know, under section 190 to 192, as a lawyer, you should know that they can prosecute and jail them for 2 years. And you should be stating that to the public. That's what you should be stating. State Solicitor's Office should intervene and start prosecuting them and just doing it. You know, Christian Porter, it's his fault. I told him to his face. I said to his face when I was in the Liberal Party, I said to Christian Porter's face, you're not going to licence brothels in Western Australia. That's what I said to him. And he just looked at me and I walked off. I said, you're not going to licence brothels in Western Australia. That's what I said. And, you know, Michael Mission will licence brothels. He doesn't care. He's using tax money to destroy Australian civil, political and religious rights. He's using his position. He should be jailed for 3 months under provisions under the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission Act of 1986, section 26F, I think it is. I've written it in my submission. It's going to be published as a Bill of Rights book because the judge involved, Judge Hall, he lied in the judgment transcript. Prolific lying and dishonesty in his judgment transcript. I can prove it in a 5-minute broadcast. These politicians are criminals, and so are the judges. They are criminals. They gave a Supreme Court injunction to, you know, Wayne Martin and Kenneth Martin gave a Supreme Court injunction to the Liberal Party for political signage. Everybody knows it. All the journalists know it. And yet they prosecuted me. I was the only political candidate in the entire election that was prosecuted for political reasons. So they gave an injunction to the Liberal Party, but they prosecuted me for political signage. And my judge lied and lied and lied in his judgment transcript. He was very dishonest, and he lied. And I'll prove it to the public in the coming years. He should be jailed as well for 3 months under the same provisions. Him and Michael Mission should be jailed for 3 months for their using their position, using tax money, and to destroy my civil and political rights. And also other people as well, other citizens in our nation. And I can prove it in 5 minutes. I've got all the records. It's no problem. I'm going to publish the submission as a Bill of Rights book, and I'm going to broadcast it all on YouTube too in the coming years. So they should be jailed for their corruption, because it'll never stop. It'll never stop. Things like this will never stop. It'll just get worse. It'll only, if you don't listen to what I'm saying, if the Australian people don't listen, if the Fremantle Federal and I'm telling you, they can be jailed for 2 years. The managers of the brothel, the owners of the brothel, the owners of the property being used as a brothel, and any man that uses a prostitute in Western Australia can be jailed for a year. The managers, the owners of the brothel, and the property owner can be jailed for 2 years. And a man that uses a prostitute can be jailed for 1 year. It's black and white, there's no dispute. If the judges won't jail them and prosecute them, then the judges should be jailed. Because the murder and rape of women is horrific. And crimes against women and children, and sexual crimes against women, forced slavery, forced prostitution, or even if it's voluntary, it's still perpetuated by male hegemony, isn't it? It's enforced by men who are doing it, primarily. Male politicians, primarily, who are allowing it. And female politicians who are lying and who are ignorant. She should be sacked. They should all be sacked. And it's only going to get worse. You're putting trust in very corrupt people. Liberal and Labor politicians who are very corrupt and are accountable for causing most of the problems in our society because of their bad, failed and corrupt leadership. It's as simple as that. You cannot trust them. You know, they are corrupt. They should be jailed. Vote for other parties. Vote for the United Australia Party. Vote for Australian Democrats. Vote for independents. Vote for, you know, not the Greens. The Greens are just as bad as these people, I believe. Because most of them are atheists. They're corrupt to the core. You know, atheism is doing the work of Satan. It is. It's the work of Satan. There are only two teams, Satan's team and Jesus' team. Choose your team. At the end of the day, every human on this planet is going to be judged by the God of the Bible. And you're going to be judged for what you promote. Do you promote the work of atheism and Satanism, which is what it is? Or do you promote the work of Jesus Christ on the New Testament and stop injustice? The only way to stop injustice is to do the work of Christ and speak out for what is good and right. And atheists are doing the work of Satan. And you can criticise me as much as you want in letters, you know, in the Herald, but the truth is, the editor believes what I said about it is balderdash. But it's not balderdash. And someone else agree with them, balderdash. Well, I'm telling you the truth, because it's based on biblical law and biblical principles and teachings in the New Testament. So I'm teaching you the truth, and I'm telling you the truth, that I'm promoting the work of Christ, good things for society, and atheists are promoting the work of Satan in your work and in your rhetoric. And what you promote is balderdash. Atheists promote balderdash. And the evidence is violence in our society and brothels. You know, liars like Lieshout and hypocrites like Nick Garan. I've got all the evidence. I've got Christian Porter's report. I've got the date of the meeting and the minutes. I've got evidence that I stood up and spoke about it, and Lorraine Finlay, the president of the Women's Liberal Council, said straight to my face in front of all the people, yeah, but Teresa, the judges don't enforce section 190 to 192. That's the problem. Well, let's make them enforce it, I said. Let's make them enforce it, to shut them down and jail these people. She's a lawyer, and she teaches law at Murdoch University. And if they try and deny it, they are lying. So they're not going to deny it, because they know I'm telling the truth. You know, and you should have endorsed me as a leader within the Liberal Party. But the male politicians don't have any respect for women. They don't have respect for women politicians or women leaders. They don't. They're hypocrites. They should all be jailed, you know. Including people like Nick Garan. You're a hypocrite. Because you were at that meeting, and you even spoke at that meeting, where Christian Porter started proposing to licence brothels, and the legislation is before the Parliament right now. So why didn't you talk about section 190 to 192 in that meeting, Nick Garan? You're a lawyer. And why didn't you talk about it to the media? Because you're a liar and you're a hypocrite. That's why.